everyone. Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Wire interview. I am your host, Lewis Carlin. Joining me today is one of the best professional wrestlers in the world today. On February 15th, he becomes a free agent, has a big decision to make. Very happy to welcome the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. Josh, welcome to the show, man.
Lewis, pleasure as always.
Pleasure is all mine. Pleasure is all mine. Hopefully, we can get this working this time. So let's get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. Everybody wants to know, what does the future hold for Josh Alexander? Well, what's happening? You're a free agent February 15th. What does the future hold?
I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, come February 15th, I'll find out, what offers are on the table and I'll find out where I'm going. It's a big decision to make. It's nerve-wracking, it's exciting. It's all these things, but the future is that you're going to see Josh Alexander wrestling for years to come. I just don't know where yet.
Okay, are there any offers on the table, or you're not sure yet?
Well, I have agents for this. Like
Okay, okay.
I'm very lucky to have representation. People that have dealt with these companies around the world that and this business and stuff like that. And they keep this stuff very close to the vest. They treat it like pro sports. I'm not a free agent until midnight of February 15th. So I'm just waiting to get a call at midnight on that day, and we're gonna figure it all out. And then I have some decisions to make. So.
All right, so Valentine's Day, and then when that's over, you're a free agent. So, do you think you're gonna be a free agent for long? Do you think you're gonna make a relatively quick decision, or you're not sure?
I mean, it all depends on the offers and stuff like that. I'll have to sit down with my wife and discuss because everything, every company has different stuff. If it's New Japan, you're talking about doing, several week tours. If it's AEW, it's, once or twice a week. If it's WWE, it's a harsher schedule. If it's
Yeah.
TNA, we're very used to that already. It comes down to all that, and it comes down to dollars and cents at the end of the day. As I'm not in the twilight of my career. I think I'm in the prime of my career, but I
Oh
can
yeah.
definitely see the end of it coming. The end of it's far closer than the beginning of it. And I have to think about when I'm done in the ring and how I'm going to support my family and stuff like that. So dollars and cents do matter, which is a crazy thing to say, coming from somebody who over these last 20 years has not valued money whatsoever in this pursuit of passion and love for pro wrestling. Like
Yeah, of
I've,
course.
I've I've done this because it makes me happy for 20 years. And now, I've been very lucky to be able to put myself in a position where, I can think about putting away money so that I can support my family forever and not have to go back to a construction job. So that stuff all factors in. It's just going to be, like I said, nerve wracking and exciting all at the same time, but it's going to be a decision to make for me and my family. So.
So when you were doing construction and you were wrestling, I was reading you would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to work out and then go to work. Like what time did you go to bed?
Well, that was a rough year. So it was the
Okay.
the the last year before COVID hit. I think that's 2019. I had opened my own wrestling school,
Oh,
so
oh yeah, yeah.
I would at that time I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I'd go to the gym, get my hour in at the gym, drive straight to the job site, do the job site till 3:30, take off, come home, spend a couple of hours with my kids, and then I'd have to go off to the wrestling school till 10 o'clock at night, and then I drive home, fall asleep, and reset that. And then it was leaving on Thursdays or Fridays to fly out to wherever, to fly back on Sunday or Monday morning, just to do it all over again and stuff. So that year really burnt me out. But it was a rewarding experience too, having a wrestling school and stuff all at the same time. Just the juggling act of all of it. Like I'm a guy that sleeps like 4 or 5 hours a night anyway, and I'll
Okay.
be fine. I've always kind of been like that. But yeah, with construction and everything else, and when I had a family, like just wanting to spend time with my kids and prioritizing that, I had to do the gym in the morning so that I would have just a couple of hours with them before I had to go to the wrestling school.
Do you think you would open up another wrestling school in the future? Like when wrestling is done, would you open up another school?
No, no, 100% no.
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
I, I'm awesome. I'm great at coaching. I love coaching. The business aspect of running a business of a school and stuff like that. I have no interest in doing that again. It's just so stressful, and I don't like chasing people for money and all these
Okay.
other things
Okay.
that
Yeah,
go
yeah.
into it. I like. I'm not going to say I have a big heart, but maybe it is. It's just I sympathize too much with other people's situations financially to be like, you owe me this contractually every month on the first, and if they don't pay me because of whatever excuse, like I just feel like I felt for them too much, and I'm not a good businessman in that sense. So.
Okay. All right, man. Fair enough. You mentioned New Japan Pro Wrestling. Is the G1 still a goal?
Oh, absolutely. That'll be a
Okay.
goal forever until it never happens, and then it'll be a regret forever. But just keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully it can transpire one day. But it's not one of those things like when I jokingly say regret, but like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It just wasn't meant to be. Like I've come to a point in my life where I've understand that everything happens for a reason, and I've been very lucky and grateful along this path. So if that doesn't happen, I can be very happy about many other things that have occurred in my life and career.
All right. So I want to ask about TNA. If you decide to stay with TNA, what would be the immediate goal? What would be your immediate goal, or your goal for 2025 if you return to TNA?
It'd be the same thing that it was when I came back from my tricep tear, just to regain the TNA World Championship and finish that historic reign I was on because it didn't end the way I wanted it to. I had to give it up. I had to relinquish the title because I tore my tricep, and
Yeah.
that was not the way I wanted that to end. I don't think it's the way anybody wanted it to end. And I never got it back in that year and a half after coming back from injury. And it's something that, is certainly a disappointment, but the wrestling business is the wrestling business. It ain't just about me. There's a ton of moving parts, and there's a ton of people in that company that are so over and so talented, and deserve that championship along the way. It's just it didn't end the way I wanted it to, so that's something that'll eat away at me.
So you have the longest reign as Impact TNA slash the Impact Wrestling World Champion. You think anybody ever break that record?
Yeah, I could certainly see somebody breaking it. It's just
Okay.
there's TNA's like WWE. They've just had like a 3 or 4 year reign with Roman Reigns or something like that. It was
Yeah,
three
yeah,
years,
yeah, yeah. 3 years.
um, which is nearly unheard of in this day and age in pro wrestling for like the last 25 years. So you're talking going back to the days of like Hulk Hogan and Bruno Sammartino and all these reigns that went on for years and years. But to get a year, I think that's possible. And I was just shy of a year by like a couple of weeks. So, that was my goal when I started inching towards it, and we just didn't get there because of the tricep tear. Obviously, like I said, it wasn't meant to be. So, I definitely think somebody can beat it one day.
All right. Oh, Jordan Grace was asked this question recently, and I'm going to ask you, if Scott D'Amore was still with TNA, would that make it an easier decision to remain with TNA?
No, no. I developed a great relationship with Scott over the years, and it's all due to like the respect I have for him from what I saw him put into that company, both physically, emotionally, mentally, all this stuff. Like I said, like I work 20+ hour days every day, trying to just do a little bit of everything to make sure everything went right because he had such a passion for those three letters, TNA.
Yeah.
And I just had so much respect for him. But like when we signed my last contract, my 3 year deal, he told me at the time, he was just like, at the end of this contract, either we'll have enough money to pay you what you're worth, because like for market value at the time, me staying in TNA, I could have gone and got more money elsewhere, but I wanted to stay with TNA, and I had unfinished business. I had things I still wanted to do, and I felt like I got to do a lot of those things in the past 3 years. So it's you know, now it's time to think about making money to support my family when I'm done in ring, and it's also time to think about what stories I can tell moving forward. If I stay with TNA, like I can't just work with Moose again, or rehash the same feuds, because the roster turnover has to be there for that kind of excitement and draw, so you're not rehashing new stories along the way. So I think it's time. I think I've done everything there is to do in TNA. Longest reigning tag team champion, longest reigning world champion. I won the X Division title, and I'm very proud of like the matches and reign I had with that. Like the TNA run, man, like it's a dream come true. You think about my 6 years there, and you look at the body of work that like I put out with the opportunities I was given. Like it could not have gone better, and I'm so grateful for it. But on the other end, I need to get excited about what's going on moving forward. And I think, maybe a change of scenery, maybe some new opponents, maybe some stuff like that will do that. And that's where I say nerve wracking and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah, Dave Meltzer actually said that it's going to come down to for you, it's going to come down to WWE or AEW. And he said he did say New Japan Pro Wrestling might be a player. Is he on? Is he right on with that, or is he off base? Or
I mean, other than TNA, those are the three top companies in the world I'd be thinking
okay,
about. New Japan, that's just me wrestling in Japan has been something that's been a goal forever. Like when I wrestled in Japan last
Yeah.
October, or sorry, 2 Octobers ago, it was against Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii. And after the match, Tana, he's just like, you're the perfect strong style wrestler. Please come to New Japan more. And I was just like, I'm blown away because this is the ace, saying
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And now he's the president. So, like, it's just cool stuff like that. But, like, when you break it down, like the top two companies that can pay wrestlers the utmost they can make are WWE and AEW, and those are two companies that have like a lot of spotlight on them, where you can go and make a bigger name for yourself to support yourself for years to come after you're done in ring. So I don't think Dave's off at all with those. I'm just very grateful to be in the conversation to have offers and interest from any of these companies because that's something like if you asked me 6 years ago, I'd be like, I'm not even on the radar. So
Yeah, well, it's well deserved. You definitely earned it, Josh. You definitely earned it, man. So back to TNA for a second. The main difference when Scott Demore left, what are the main differences between Scott Demore in charge and the new management? Are there many differences?
I mean, Scott had grown up in the wrestling business for 30 years, and like Anthony and Ariel both coming in, they were both more corporate guys that didn't have a lot of wrestling experience in like the sense of running a wrestling show. Anthony had dealt with, negotiations with WWE over the years with the score and stuff like that. Like he was the guy that brought WWE to the score. And as a Canadian, we
Yeah,
know
yeah,
like all about that and like the revolutionary things he did with programming just for their sports broadcasting is stuff that I'm a huge fan of. So like there's things people can offer other than like the day to day of running a wrestling show for sure. But it was just a change up of like the kind of the culture of like this is a pro wrestling company through and through to this is an entertainment media company with that puts on pro wrestling at the same time. And like neither one is wrong. Like obviously TNA has done amazing things this past year. It just there wasn't like that figurehead on and off camera like you have with Scott, where you go there and the buck stops immediately. That's just kind of what I found.
all right. So there's a partnership. Everybody knows. I'm sure you, of course, you know. WWE TNA. They formed a partnership. How do you think that's going to compare to the TNA AEW partnership?
I mean, we saw it a little bit already in the past, year plus with the partnership already. I just
Yeah,
think you're going to see more crossover possibly. Like the AEW crossover wasn't very much. I wrestled Christian. I think like when Kenny had the belt, there was a few matches, but there was very little on the AEW programming side. I think you're going to get more with this partnership with TNA guys being able to wrestle on the WWE networking and branding and stuff, as you've seen with Joe Hendry coming out number 15 in the Royal Rumble
yeah,
and stuff to an enormous pop for 70,000 people. That stuff's amazing. And like just like be able to feature the Rascals and Hammerstone and all these other
yeah, yeah.
people on actual NXT on Tuesday nights, that helps cross brand and stuff like that. And hopefully, there's bigger and better things, with this partnership that nobody knows about. Like we're all crossing our fingers hoping AJ Styles steps foot in the TNA ring again, I think.
Yeah,
So
that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. So when you see Joe Hendry, walking down the aisle of the Royal Rumble, do you think to yourself, man, I would like to get a piece of that. I like to be a part of that.
like
Part of the
there
Royal Rumble, yeah.
oh yeah, well like if there was ever any bucket list goal that I've had since I was a child, it would be to be in a Royal Rumble. Like it's never been a main event WrestleMania or anything. The Royal Rumble is the one show that I watch every year, regardless of anything that's going on. I watched it Saturday night with my family. Like it's my favorite show always to watch. I find so much excitement in it, and that's definitely something on my bucket list that I would love to do before I hang up my boots. But like to see Joe come out and to get the pop that he did with the TNA championship around his waist, that's something that like I was very proud watching it. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Like he is, and like just to know the guy that Joe is and how he's built himself up to that moment where he got that. Like
Hmm.
he's busted his ass to get there, and it's
Yeah.
amazing to see.
How come you haven't crossed over? Were you did they ever have you been spoken? Did they speak to you about possibly crossing over to the
There was
WWE?
there was one NXT TNA crossover thing that just like it was offered to me, and it just it wasn't the right timing and stuff for it to happen, and so it had to be turned down. And you've heard rumblings here or there of like this might have
Yeah.
happened, or this was supposed to happen, or they wanted this to happen, blah blah. But like, obviously, nothing transpired, and like, there's no hard feelings on my end or anything. It would have been cool to do it to see how like that whole side of everything works and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, everything happens for a reason, man.
If you go to the WWE, could we see a reunion with Ethan Page, or would you rather be an opponent of Ethan Page?
I mean, either or, the chemistry
Okay.
works both ways. I think.
Okay.
I think the North on Raw or SmackDown, or you're talking about some tag team rivalries and matches that I could get very excited about. If you're talking about NXT, me coming in having a problem with Ethan Page and Ethan Page having a problem with me, I think that could do an amazing business
That would
too.
be
So,
great. Yeah.
given our histories over the last 15 years and stuff like that together, so there's a lot of meat on the bone there. So
Yeah. Now, I just want to go back. You mentioned Kenny Omega. There was a when Kenny Omega was a Impact World Champion. There was a backstage segment. You guys crossed paths, kind of teasing a match or a feud that never materialized. How come that never materialized? Was there a reason for that? Because I was expecting a match between you and Kenny Omega, and it never happened.
um, so like, you hear things, but like, I don't know what's true. You like, for you to get those answers, you have to talk to Don, Scott, Kenny, and Tony.
Okay. All right.
You know what I'm saying? I've never heard it
Sure.
from any of their mouths, but I remember when it happened, I was just like, why are we doing this? Are we working? And they were just like, no, not yet. And I was like, okay. And they were just like, we're planting seeds. I'm like, okay. And so we do like the little thing, and I'm like, well, that'll be cool if it happens. That'd be a mad step up from where I was at the time. X Division champion was granted, but like at the time,
Yeah.
Kenny Omega just like the pinnacle of pro wrestling. So
Yeah.
and two Canadians, obviously, somebody I've looked up to and followed his career for a very long time. But like, I had heard Kenny wanted to work with me, and it was just like he was so beat up at the time that it never got to happen because he was dealing with like a few injuries at the time that I think obviously he's fixed, and the diverticulitis came afterwards as well. So
All right, man. So let's move on here. I know your time is precious. I know we had a little trouble in the beginning, so we're gonna a few more
it's all good.
questions and we'll wrap this up, man. So many fans have speculated that since you stopped taking indie dates, that you're going to the WWE because in the WWE you can't take indie dates. Do you have any comment on that?
I would say that it's best to say no comment on that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Um, what do you miss the most and the least not working on indie dates?
I miss the fans and the wrestlers.
Okay.
So like, I've been just a guy who gets in his car and drives 8 hours, 10 hours to a show and drives straight back. And it's something that I didn't really enjoy when I first started doing it at the tender age of 20 years old. But
Okay.
now, like, over 15 years later, like, it's something that I enjoy. There's something peaceful about it. There's something that I'm very used to and like programmed into me to do. And I enjoy the traveling. I enjoy going to a show and meeting new people and watching. Like, I'll watch every indie show I'm on, no matter where it is around the world, just to see talent. Like, that's how I discovered Leon Slater. I watched the whole show before my match for a soft pro show in the UK in Manchester, and I remember calling Scott Demore as soon as like I got to my hotel that night and being like, "This kid, you need to sign him. You need to look at him. I don't care. I know I've told you about 10 other people you need to sign, and you've ignored me. This is one you cannot ignore." Like, I was like
Okay. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
adamant, but like, just being able to like go meet new wrestlers and find new talent and see people like how like it gets me excited because these guys are like the ones that are in the trenches fighting for spots, fighting to get to the top of the indie card that they're on, or fighting to try to get noticed by bigger companies and stuff like that. And it's something, there's something like really like that brings me back to like that stage of my career when I do them. Like, I miss that. And things I don't miss like this year especially was very tough where like I'm showing up to shows and I'm for the first time in 20 years, I'm dealing with promoters being like, "Oh, I don't know if I can pay you tonight." And I'm like,
Oh
I'm not.
yeah.
And I have to have that conversation where I'm like, I'm not the guy that you don't pay. That's just not something that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to be that guy, right? Like, it's just, it's just like a give and take, right? There's so many amazing indie promoters around North America that I've worked for over the past 20 years, and there's just like two or three bad apples that have just ruined the experience for me as I get into like my older age and don't want to deal with these issues. So
And you're very dedicated too. Didn't you miss a flight or a flight was canceled and you drove to the show? I think it was New York, I believe it was.
yeah, and I have even worse one than that. I like
Okay.
two years ago, John Grisham was running a show in Atlanta, and I think it was his debut show.
Okay.
And so it was a big deal. And he had like Triller there to do it. He was putting all the bells and whistles into this promotion. And my flight got canceled the night before because Atlanta got hit with a snowstorm. And I was like, I looked it up and I was like, if I leave right now, it's 16 hours. I can get there by 10 a.m. the day of the show. And he was like, "You do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, what else do I have to do?" Like, you know what I mean? And like, so I just like, I packed my bags, I kissed my wife, and I left at like 6 p.m. on a Saturday night. And
Okay.
I drove to Atlanta to wrestle that show. Like, it's just like, I don't like missing bookings. I don't like, even if it's four people in that audience paid a ticket to see my match or paid a ticket to see me, I don't want to disappoint anybody. So, you know,
All right, man. Like I said, you're really dedicated, man. Really dedicated, man. So three more questions. Three more questions, and we'll wrap this up. JBL referred to you as one of the best workers in the world. When a legend like that shows you respect, that's got to be a great feeling, man.
it's insane, man. I remember I wrestled Joe Hendry. I can't remember the name of the pay per view. It was in September, and we came to the back afterwards, and he grabbed me. And like JBL is an intimidating figure to anybody.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
care who
yeah.
you are. Like same thing with like Bully Ray and stuff like that. There's just this aura about them where you're like, do I say hi? Do I not say hi? You know what I mean? And like I'd introduced myself to him obviously, but like he comes up to me and he's just like he starts shaking my hand. He starts running down like the stuff I did in that match that he was like so blown away with and stuff. And I was just like, thank you so much. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I don't, and it followed on from there. Every time he came to TNA, he would always like make time to like sit down and talk to me and stuff like that. And he's had a high praise. And yeah, there's just, you know, fans, we're nothing without the fans, pro wrestlers, but like pro wrestlers that are in there doing it, there's like this certain aspect of like when you're good and you know when other people are really good and going above and beyond, you know, to put on their very best and to get that kind of praise from somebody that knows those little things that I try to do every single time. That's the kind of stuff that like lives forever in my mind.
You want to take one clothesline from JBL?
Oh
Would
yeah,
you like?
absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
I'll kick out of it, but I'll take
You'll kick out. Okay, yeah, of course you'll kick out, man. Of course you'll kick out.
it.
So Genesis had a fantastic match with Mike Santana. Just how good or how good can Mike Santana become? And if you do leave TNA, could he fill the void that you'll be leaving there?
I think Mike is the person that is going to fill that void
Oh,
100%. Like
okay.
that, me telling him he's the standard of TNA now was not scripted. That that was not part of the show. That was,
Okay.
you know, he had the microphone. I grabbed it and I said it because I felt it. And that's something I felt for, you know, a few months now, just watching him in the ring, watching the things he does out of the ring, watching the work he puts in, the passion he has, the love he has for everything he does for wrestling. Like it's very like I'm not going to say we're yin and yang, but I'm not going to say we're exactly alike either. But like that passion, we are exactly alike and in tune with that, and we relate to each other so much. And that's why, like he's one of my best friends. He's going to be one of my best friends for the rest of my life. Like just because we vibe on that so much, and I have so much respect for him. And I think, you know, nobody if you don't think he's the guy right now, he's going to show you in the next few months. And if he's not, you know, TNA world champion by like, you know, I don't know, Slammiversary or something of this year, I think it would be a massive disappointment because I think he's putting out the best stuff of anybody there.
Yeah, he's definitely a fantastic talent. And again, fantastic match at Genesis against Mike Santana. Final question. When you're done with professional wrestling, what do you want the fans to remember you by?
Ooh, that's tough. I always say like I used to read Lance Storm's blogs because he used to write blogs. These are way back in the day. And he said in the blog that all he wanted was the respect of his peers after he's done in the ring and stuff like that. That's what mattered most to him. And it's something that resonated very highly with me. Like I want people to remember me fondly as being a professional through and through. like somebody who goes out, whatever you give me, I'm gonna go out and do the very best I can with it every single time and try to blow everybody away, even if what's written down ain't something that you think is gonna blow anybody away. And I'm gonna just hope that I have the respect of my peers when it's all said and done. Like I'm regarded as one of the best wrestlers ever because, like I said with the JBL thing, like fans, like the attention span in fans' minds is so short these days. I can be one person's favorite one day, and I'm all of a sudden their least favorite the next for a different like list of reasons. But like if the wrestlers, when I hang up my boots, have respect for me and what I did, and they notice the things I did, and the effort I put in to leaving this business better off than when I found it. That's the stuff that I hope for in the future.
All right. Well, Josh, I just want to say thank you so much, uh, not just for today, but for all the years that you've come on the show and allowed me to interview you. It means a lot to me, especially when you were rising. You would get bigger and bigger. You still come on the show, and I know Ross Foreman would have to get involved once in a while, but you'd still come on the show, and it means a lot to me. And when I said in the beginning of the podcast, you're one of the best wrestlers in the world, you are definitely, without a doubt, one of the best wrestlers in the world. I mean that. Wherever you end up, you're going to be still one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck wherever you end up, man.
Thanks, Lewis. I really appreciate that, and I'll always make time to support some Canadian content.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Again, good luck wherever you end up. And let's do this again, hopefully soon.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Take care. All right. Bye bye.